The United States might have some issues here. Saudi Arabia and Iran are friends again because of China. Stick around for this one because this is about to sound like a love triangle type situation on some corny TV show. Okay, so we all have best friends. Imagine if your best friend now becomes friends with somebody that you can't stand. This is essentially what's going on, but it's getting even worse. Okay, so why were Saudi Arabia and Iran not friends? First and foremost, they did not agree on certain Islamic aspects. They didn't agree with how they did business with oil, and Iran can't stand the West, and Saudi Arabia doesn't mind them. Now, I'm just going to leave it at that because it gets even more complex. There were embassies that were stormed, there were people that were assassinated. These guys weren't friends, but now they're kind of cool again. Now, I'm just going to say it. When it comes to the friendship of Saudi Arabia and the United States, we all know this, it has to do with money. We all know Saudi Arabia has a lot of oil, and they're known for being rather fair with the West, in particular, the United States. Oh, and they also are like a tactical strategic partner, as in they buy a lot of military equipment from the United States. The United States is allowed to operate out of their country. You know, we're kind of friends with them. Now, the United States to Iran, not the greatest of friends, but I want to specify the Iranian people have been fooled with and played with by their government. The United States has an issue with the government and the military, not the people. I really want to keep this surface level. I don't want to go down any rabbit holes. Just know the United States and Iran are not friends. So, China, why are they involved and what are they doing in the Middle East? Well, a couple of observations here. First things first, when the Taliban officially took over Afghanistan, China was there like, yeah, good job, we recognize you guys. Now, there's a couple of reasons as to why China would be cool with the Taliban. Reason number one, they don't want to piss them off, they share a border. Number two, making fun of the United States and pointing out to the world, look, the Taliban won, everybody. Now, I have to mention this. China, like, all of a sudden has become the center for peace, which is weird because they were trying to negotiate peace between Russia and Ukraine. And I have to mention this because I'm just putting puzzle pieces together. This is not hard to figure out. Zelensky had recently also gone to Saudi Arabia and there were some sort of talks there. Do you not think Saudi Arabia said we are going to China to have a negotiation out there? Now, I'm all for peace. I would have loved if Zelensky said no more war with Russia, but we know the Ukrainians are not going to do any sort of deal in China considering Ukraine and the United States and NATO have become really good friends. They're not going to do deals with China. So, how did China manage to bring Saudi Arabia and Iran together? Well, it's quite simple. China is not the United States and they're not in the West. Like I had mentioned before, Iran does not like the West. They hated that Saudi Arabia was doing deals with the United States because Iran says the United States is oppressing them. So it makes sense for China to be the common table to where everybody can go to and have a negotiation and try to figure things out. Now, when it comes to the peace deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia, it really just is embassies have opened. There was a realization that now we can maybe come together and try to work things out. But when it comes to Saudi Arabia being mostly Sunni and Iran being mostly Shia, I don't ever foresee them coming together on those Islamic doctrines. Those have been issues for a while and that can get very complex as well. Before I get to the reaction of the United States and how President Biden doesn't seem to care, I just have to point this out to China because this is really weird to me. If you guys are not aware, China is known for being like super oppressive to Islam and Muslims, so I find it really weird that they're coming together in a country that has been treating those people really bad. That's why I see this being really shady and almost hypocritical, but let me get to the United States. So President Biden's like, cool, great, nothing to worry about here. We're happy that there is peace now. Thank you, China. And they're saying this is no big deal, nothing to worry about. But do you see the issue here? Saudi Arabia is friends with Iran. Iran has ties to China now. China's friends with Russia. Russia's in Ukraine. Ukraine is fighting Russia. Our weapons are going to Ukraine. I'm kind of confused here. And I promise, I am not trying to be like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm pretty sure we are all aware. Iran is friends with Russia, Russia's at war with Ukraine, we use weapons in Ukraine against Russia, and we're not that great of friends with China. How is this not making sense to the United States, more specifically the Biden administration? Now, unfortunately for the United States, I do not think we are in a position to denounce any of this. Could you imagine how pissed off the entire world would be at the United States if they said, wow, Saudi Arabia and Iran, you guys are friends again? Why aren't you guys at war? And I'm all about being honest here. The United States has a lot of recovering to do in terms of the Afghanistan war and the Iraq war, but that's kind of still going on anyway. Now, we have some other issues here that's even more awkward. The United States and Saudi Arabia are sort of fighting this proxy war together against rebel groups that are backed by, you guessed it, Iran. And it's not uncommon to find cargo ships that are filled with supplies heading to these rebel groups, either captured by the British or the United States. Like, it happens all the time. So, what does this all mean? Number one, I want peace, I don't want war, but I live in reality. There will always be war amongst humans. I see this as China in a very winning position to go into the Middle East, try and broker more peace deals, try and provide more jobs, more trade opportunities. And something very important the United States does not have with Saudi Arabia or Iran, that is religious ties. Because even though Saudi Arabia and Iran, they have doctrine issues between the Sunni and Shia, at the end of the day, they all fall under Islam. They are Muslims. And we like to say in the United States, we are religious, we are a Christian country. When you compare it to Saudi Arabia, Iran, those are Islamic countries. Those are true Muslims. And when you look at the conflicts of the Middle East, one of the biggest dividers, it would be religion, but one of the biggest things bringing everyone together is also religion. Now, don't take this as emotionalism, don't be afraid. I do see this as a very strong and powerful move from China. I do think it's very telling of what China is trying to do, and I don't think the United States should be complacent on this entire situation. I actually think China is its own worst enemy when it comes to the religious aspect of everything, especially if they're going to try dealing with countries in the Middle East. But anyway, that's the video. Please leave a comment, and I really enjoyed making this for you guys.